Stunned by love, and some would say stupid from too much sex, I decided I had to drive down south to kill a man. This is the opening line to William Ghilardi's novel Busy Monsters. It's one of my favorite books and one that I've returned to many times when I felt myself entering writer's block. The way it's written just really does something that gets the juices flowing in my mind. I highly recommend it, but the reason I opened this video with it is because I believe it's the perfect example of a hook. Immediately, you're intrigued. The opening line has sex and drama, and you have to figure out if this lovesick narrator will actually go through with killing a man. And that keeps you reading. Video games, by their nature, are a form of interactive storytelling. And when you have a game that is straightforward, like Call of Duty, for example, you can use a similar strategy of hooking your audience. Take Black Ops 6, for example. The first mission, you're trying to escort the Iraqi Minister of Defense and extract him, but you're quickly ambushed by a paramilitary group called Pantheon. Just as you think you're through with the mission, Russell Adler from the previous game appears and assassinates the Minister of Defense and then allows himself to be arrested. This results in your unit being suspended, but they believe that Pantheon is a real force of evil and go rogue to investigate the group where the government prefers to turn a blind eye. For a linear action game, this is a great hook. There are stakes and intrigue. You're unsure of who to trust, and it compels you to keep on playing. However, many video games aren't so straightforward. As consumers demand more playtime as open-world games gained popularity, this necessitated developers to weave the main story quests into the many available side quests without feeling like they were railroading the player. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here, but I promise this will all come together, even if it feels weird in the moment. I want to talk about Walt Disney. Walt Disney died in 1966, before Pong was released in 1972. So it's extremely unlikely that he thought too much about video games or how to keep players interested in them. However, Walt was an unconventional storyteller of sorts. His theme parks, in many ways, serve as a basis for the open-world theme park experiences that we've come to know and love in video games. Think about the series Westworld, and how the Disney parks influenced the original movie, which would go on to influence games such as Red Dead Redemption 2, which in turn would inspire parts of the remake of Westworld on HBO. There's a through line from Walt Disney to open world video games, is what I'm trying to say. The parks have a main attraction, but in order to get you to that main attraction, you have to pass by candy shops, bakeries, merchandise, smaller rides, all of them interesting in their own way, all of them side quests of sorts, as you work your way towards the main attraction. But you wouldn't have this setup if it weren't for Weenies. That's right. This is from the website The Mouselettes, which is also a YouTube channel. If you're interested in Disney parks, explaining how Walt Disney came up with this concept of drawing guests into a main attraction while offering up side attractions, check out their channel. They have tons of great content. Quote, during the early development of Disneyland, Walt wouldn't often arrive home until late in the evening. His housekeeper would be preparing dinner, but hungry from a long day, he'd grab a hot dog, or as he called it, a weenie, from the fridge as a snack. He'd always share it with his dog, Lady, and over time, he realized that Lady would follow him wherever he was holding it because she knew that she was going to get a bite. Later on, in Disneyland planning, he remembered the dog's excitement at the sight of the weenie and how he could lead her wherever he wanted when he had one in hand. He translated this into the design of the park and coined the term weenie as a visual element that could be used to draw people into and around a space. A weenie is large enough to be seen from a distance and interesting enough to make you want to take a closer look, and today's weenies are critical for storytelling and building a sequential, organized story. Close quote. Now that you understand what a weenie is and how it's used in storytelling, let's get back to video games. With one of the internet's favorite video games, Fallout New Vegas. It begins with your player being shot in the face by Matthew Perry, Rip Legend. This sets the player up nicely for a story arc of revenge. Once you crawl out of your grave and are healed up by the doctor in Good Springs, you're set loose to do literally whatever you like. There's no shortage of things to do in this game. From the standard random encounters to discovering long-forgotten vaults and involving yourself in the complicated political situation of the Mojave Wasteland. You can pretty easily forget that you owe Chandler a visit while going through all of this. So how does the game usher the player towards the main storyline? Well, it's a weenie, of course. Even in the marketing, you see the Lucky 38 tower looming over the player character. When playing the game, it's always in the background, reminding the player that ultimately, this is where you need to go to advance the story. Never forget that you were left in a grave to die, and the man who did this is in that casino. The tower itself is the weenie, drawing the player in, even if it is just subconsciously. A more modern example of a weenie and what kind of inspired this entire video is the game Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 in Trotsky Castle. The game tasks you with delivering a message to Lauren von Burgau, but on the way you're ambushed and lose the letter as well as your gear and anything that would indicate that you aren't just some random vagabond, but a noble messenger. So you're forced to work your way up from the dirt, gaining money and gear and nobility, while finding a way into the castle to deliver your message. The castle is ever present, looming over you in the same way that the Lucky 38 does. You may get distracted by the amount of side content available to you, and believe me, I certainly did. But every now and then, when doing a side mission, you'll look up and you'll see the castle reminding you what you're supposed to be doing and drawing you in. I love this kind of storytelling. I think more open world games should embrace weenies. They keep you engaged without feeling like the developers are forcing you along a path. It's a passive but persistent reminder that there are bigger things at stake, whether that's personally for the main character, such as revenge, or the hope of peace for a country torn apart by a civil war. So, what are your thoughts on weenies? Do you enjoy them when they're included in games? Were you even aware of them before this video? Maybe you noticed them but didn't know what to call them. So go forward and tell everyone about Walt Disney's weenie. Thank you so much for watching. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. A little bit silly, but something that really got its claws in me like a hook would. And I just felt like this would be an interesting topic to talk about because, I always knew about the weenies in relation to theme parks and the castles, the mountains, the roller coasters, all of that. But while playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, I was like, you know what? This castle is that same thing in this game. And the thing back at it was like, yeah, and that reminds me a lot of the New Vegas game and the Lucky 38 Tower. So just want to know what your thoughts are about this. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please subscribe. We have videos like this every single week. And make sure you check out our other channels, which includes Those Fake Nerds, which is nerded in pop culture news, and We're Good Sports, which is our sports channel, as well as Better Radio, which is our podcast channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.